Hey, it's Madison Chase, and welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV Shots Fired. Fox coming right at you live. This is the premiere, and we got a lot to talk about, so stay tuned.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Here y'all go.
Yep. Nope.
Ever squeeze the trigger?
Yep.
Ever set a brother up?
Nope.
Ever helped a brother out when he was down on the
Yes. Nope.
Okay, we're not going to sing the whole song.
Yep.
We would like to.
Nope.
No. Okay, so hey, it's your girl Madison Chase, and we are talking Shots Fired right here. The premiere was just a second ago, and it was incredible. This song is E40. It's called Choices, and this show is all about choices. So welcome to the Shots Fired AFTERBUZZ TV, and you can find me on Twitter at Madison Chase Fit, on Instagram Madison Chase Fitness, and YouTube, because we are streaming live right now, One Mad Chase. So my lovely co-host, take it away.
Hey everybody, I'm Paula Bryant Ellis, and you can reach me on Instagram and Twitter, P Bryant Ellis.
Hey guys, it's Michelle Madison. You can find me on Instagram at Michelle_Madison TV and on the Twitter at MICH_Madison TV.
I love it.
I
On the
love
Twitter.
it. On the Twitter.
Try to
Yes.
sound smart.
So you can find me on Twitter and Instagram at DeAnjilo, spelled a little different, DeAnjilo, and then at DeAnjilo TV on Twitter. Yo, this show though.
I know, right?
Oh, y'all are the real crunk ones. Y'all
Oh,
just
my
don't know
goodness.
yet.
Yeah.
They holding it back for y'all. Y'all not ready.
Y'all
It's
not
coming real
ready.
They're
quick.
just not. They're not. You know,
Because the
we gotta
shots-
ease them in.
Right, we gotta ease them in. So it's called Shots Fired.
Yeah.
Oh.
And this song, Choices. So let's jump right into it. So DJ Anthony, you could cut that music.
We really like
Nope.
the
I
song.
think he really likes
I
it.
know he likes it.
It's that beat.
Our engineers just
Yeah. He forgot he was supposed to cut it.
Cut it. Right, that's another song. So, Shots Fired. Michelle Madison, you actually went to the premiere.
Yeah.
Yes.
How was it?
We want to know how.
You guys just saw it, and I think as I was watching you guys' reactions, you guys had the reactions that I thought. And Paula, yours, we'll get to that, but yes, got a lot of inside scoop on it.
Okay.
Sanaa Lathan, actually, her character's name is Ashe, and so when they were filming this entire, all 10 parts of it, they had to call her Ashe on and off. Like even the night of the premiere,
wow.
she like really was in character. I think a lot of the characters, well, they all told me basically that because they were filming during everything that was going on from Ferguson, Philando Castle.
Oh, wow.
The day after Philando Castillo's killing, they had to do a prayer circle.
Oh.
Because it was just so much. Like
Heavy.
literally, they're
That's
going
raw.
in.
Yeah.
The backstory to this is actually the writers and producers of the show, of this show, Gina Prince Bythewood, I'm sorry, who did Love and Basketball, those
Which
who
is
are
so
fans,
interesting.
and Beyond the Lights.
Yeah.
Her and her husband, after they saw the Trayvon Martin verdict,
Oh.
literally, because we've all, well, I'm assuming we've all had the conversation, is what
Yes.
it's called.
Yeah.
Her husband was watching it, Reggie was watching it with their son, and he said he was so upset and in his feelings, and he could see it in his son. Instead of acting out of anger, he went to his laptop and that's
started
how
writing?
they wrote Shots Fired. And their son actually wrote a letter, Trayvon Martin, to Emmett Till.
Oh my
Wow.
gosh.
Technically, he's the first writer for Shots Fired.
The son.
The son, and he came out on stage and he introduced Shots Fired.
Wow. What
That's
an
a great
incredible
story.
story.
I feel like I did
Yeah.
nothing as a teenager. I was like, I am not accomplished.
But you know what? I think we can't say that you didn't do anything because we are living in completely different times. And this show is
But
such...
are we? Because not much has changed.
Well, not much has changed, but I'm saying with the politics and the race and how important race is and how race matters. It's always mattered, but now we have boom,
Yeah.
social
it's
media,
instant.
and it's instant.
instant.
Like you said, Philando Castile being, it was shown live.
Right.
And I also think sometimes we get so desensitized to so many things because we constantly were bombarded with it all the time. But I'm glad you shared that story. So let's jump into this amazing episode. Because at first I was a little concerned. I want to go and like across the board. Because initially, we don't have a lot of time, but initially when I saw it, I was sharing with Paula, I was like, man, I'm really concerned because when you look at kind of the demographics for Fox and what they generally show, is this going to be a show that reaches and does what Reggie Bythewood and Gina Bythewood actually want to accomplish? And I think they want to accomplish what we all here on this panel want to happen. We want to see change. And so I think for me, I was like a little nervous. I was like, oh, are people that need to see this, that need to get kind of a resolution or figure out
and have that veil of ignorance lifted.
Yeah, have it
to see what the rest of us see.
What the rest of us see and to see what we feel. And I think it's hard sometimes. Like we could easily put ourselves in that young woman's shoes who lost her son. I could easily I'm not a mother, but I love kids dearly. So to put myself in that position,
you could be Sandra Bland.
I could be Sandra Bland. Like that was the first time I was literally like, when that happened, I'm like, I could be Sandra Bland. That could have been me. So when I do get pulled over by a police officer, I'm nervous now.
But isn't it great though to finally have the story told by people of color?
Yes,
very important. Yeah, it's extremely important, and it's something that gets overlooked. And it's not that someone who is not of the same race can't tell that story, but that's been our legacy, is someone else trying to tell our story and tell us what emotions and feelings we should be having. So I think this is going to be a very interesting journey, and they grabbed every single stereotype and threw it in the first episode to begin. So I think this is really going to be a great kind of revealing of what's going to happen.
I think what you kind of just noted at too is it being on Fox and it kind of being on a different platform. I think I really like the reversal of a lot of roles and the fact that it was a white kid that was killed in the show. Like those little details, I feel like is going to draw in not just African Americans, but a lot of other people who watch Fox primetime generally, because now it's not just about a race. It is obviously still very much about race, but there's that other layer of, okay, what if this happened to you?
You
know what I mean? So like I'm excited to see how that divulges.
I like that they did that, because if you remember, I don't know if you guys saw Time to Kill. Remember in A Time to Kill, when Samuel L. Jackson's character is put on a stand, and they're also telling the jury they talked about all the things that happened to this young girl, and then they said, imagine she was white. And it was just the scene of their faces. It was like they saw it totally different. So that's how I see Shots Fired.
It was when I fell in love with Matthew McConaughey, because he nailed that.
I have a love-hate with him right now, but he's still sexy.
I'm
going to give him that.
He nailed that.
But to piggyback, to answer your question that you actually started with, we forget Fox News and Fox Broadcast, we forget, kind of a little different. Fox Broadcast has always pretty much, and for me, growing up as a kid, they've always had the programming that we wouldn't see anywhere else. Remember, that's where we saw Martin. That's where we saw Live in Color. That's where we saw New York Undercover.
But it's tainted by Fox News, right? Because people love them together.
Fox News brand has overshadowed Fox itself. So that's one thing you can always praise Fox Broadcasting for, is they've always had that programming that we never saw anywhere else.
It's interesting, because I feel like, I mean, I grew up on watching Martin and stuff, but it was on by that time it was on syndication.
Yes, I was watching every Sunday. It was block programming. It was Martin and Live in Color, and you were there sitting watching it. Homeboys Out of Space, or not as WB, but I'm just I'm a TV person. So I remembered Fox for having those shows that I to this day watch in syndication.
That's a very
It's interesting. That's why I think like that's why this is interesting for me, because like to get shows like that was relatable, I had to watch it on syndication for a really long time, and it just is starting to get back to that point where new shows are relatable to me. It was just like that phase where I feel like that wasn't existing for some reason.
And you got to remember, even though you guys watched the Martins, you've got to remember sometimes those comedies made us look, they were so stereotypical. Just some of the things, and I love Martin to death, but there was just like some of the things that we did, it was like a new version of the Jefferson, right?
I get what you're saying.
So and those were also the kind of shows that Fox were promoting about us. It wasn't us as really kind of taking over and being the strong, it wasn't these very strong images. In a way, they did it in the roundabout way where we had to be kind of the joke of the story, all the time. And so and then we went through this dry spell where we got nothing from them.
That wasn't a dry spell. That was a Sahara Desert.
For a long time, right?
We got homeboys out of space.
Right. And then now we're back to starting.
They tried. They tried to get out of the stereotype.
I know.
They went out of space.
But now we're back to seeing content that is being developed, and content now where we are the writers, we are the directors, we are the storytellers, we are the producers,
and we have
we are even the
layers.
Showrunners.
I love
right?
it.
We have
layers,
layers.
complexities, interests.
Yes.
We're educated.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's definitely evolving. So that's why I'm kind of excited to see where this journey takes us.
But I think the Cosbys, I'll dead it after this. The thing with the Cosbys was because they kind of they were almost perfect. I don't think any, regardless of what ethnicity you are, no one is the Cosbys. Even though, to me, A Different World, I got to meet actually Debbie Allen at the carpet. I had to tell her that thank you, because she was a showrunner for A Different World.
I didn't know that.
So
That's good to know.
Reggie and Gina, she was in their writing room for A Different World. And I had to tell them thank you, because A Different World, I planned out my entire college career in elementary school. I tell you, like first grade. Planned it all out.
Wow.
I'm going to Hillman.
I love it. I love it.
But in any event, yes, go.
So you went to HBCU. So speaking of educated Black people, we're talking about Preston. So we see the first scene, which is kind of what we've seen on the news, which is interesting too, because if you look at kind of like the shots fired, it's that yellow caution tape. Yeah. So I feel like it's kind of like a foreshadow of
it's powerful.
This is what you're going to be watching. So get ready.
That's good.
So the opening scene, we see Tristan Wiles, who plays Deputy Joshua Beck.
And by the way, I mean, I am so excited for him. I was such a big fan of his on The Wire.
Yeah.
And so to see him in this role
is all grown
awesome.
up.
All grown up.
Yeah. So we see kind of the same thing where it's like the role reversal, where you see Black people with their cameras out now. And that's typically what we see, but now we see kind of a different perspective, because Paula, you didn't know that the little boy that was on the ground was not Black. So
they held it out a little bit.
They held it out, and I'm glad they did, because I feel like it builds suspense, even though I saw the trailer and I kind of knew. So I feel like that first scene is so pivotal to what happens, on the last episode. So how did you guys feel about that first scene?
I feel the same way you did. When the truck driver came out, the truck, and he came out, he looked, and he didn't just like brush it off. He looked like he was gonna call for help, and then what's his name? Sorry, Deputy Beck's character told him, get back in the truck, and he listened. So I figured. I was trying to think what neighborhood they were in. I kind of got an idea, but I felt a little scared.
Oh, it's interesting too that they did this in the South when you think of
North
Carolina, but
no, that's the South.
That's where I was going. I
Sure.
lived in South
I got
Carolina,
family there.
and there is no difference between South Carolina and North Carolina. It is the South. So
the rural South.
The very rural. Yep.
I would say though. Oh, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, you're good.
Okay. I would say though that everything about it was familiar except for the races. And for me, that changed everything. My emotions towards it, my connection to it. I think that was the point.
Why did your emotions change?
Well, it's less relatable for me. Like, if I'm being blunt, like, it's less relatable to see a young white male get shot by a Black cop as opposed. My emotions are completely different. Not to say that.
See, that's but that's the issue.
But don't you love it though, the way they backdoored it, right? So they get you on the front door with because they are going to a broader audience, right? So it's a young white man that is shot by a Black cop, but they immediately introduced a story of there has been this young Black boy that was shot, and no one has done anything about it. Just a couple of weeks prior to, right?
I will say though, like, and this is like, it's not to say one is worse than the other or better than the other, but it's just a simple fact that when you add a layer of race to it, your perception of it changes for the most part. I would say the people I'm around, like, you know what I mean? So yeah, and I think that's the contradiction that they're trying to bring out. I feel like I have to defend myself, but
I think that's you're being honest.
Yeah,
that's what people
real.
need to say.
Yeah.
Like,
but that's what I think that's what this series is really about. Is to strike the dialogue. Right.
Exactly. So.
And speaking of dialogue too, because how many times have we seen the news, and there used to be stereotypical things that we would say based on what the reporter said, like, oh, someone killed 15,000 people. You'd be like, oh yeah, that must have been
a white guy.
Exactly.
Or except for that one guy in the DC sniper that
I'm from DC.
Right.
Yeah. DC.
And you're like, damn it.
Right. But people were thinking that it was probably like that is generally like a natural assumption when we talk about
but
race
we're not
relations.
scared of white men because of it though, right?
That's
it's
true.
that one sole person they were having issues, and then that's how we
dismiss it.
Yeah. It's not the entire race.
Well, you know, it's interesting. I'm a mother of a son, and I have been walking down the street, and I've had my son tell me these stories where he's walking down the street, and there might be Caucasian, could be a couple walking, right? They're facing one another, and they will cross the street when they see him. And that just, as a mother, man, that does something
to your psyche.
Because you go, oh my God, how could they see my son? Right? How could you even? But that is kind of where we are as a society.
And it's a norm.
And it's a norm.
It's like I went
unfortunately.
I'm from DC, which is like all black. Well, my house is like all black. Yeah. It's changing a little bit now, but
except for the White House.
Yeah.
The gentrification part. Yeah.
And then I went to Pepperdine, which is like the complete opposite.
Opposite. Yeah.
And just being put in that environment, like it's just a norm. I'm used to it now. I'm used to being stared at. I'm used to people feeling uncomfortable. It's like, it's a fact. I got dreadlocks too, like, so yeah, it's just, it is a norm. So
yeah. And so in that first thing, go ahead, you had something, Michelle?
No.
Okay. So a couple of lines that really struck me, and just kind of how that whole scene played out, where the young guy that was filming, he said payback is bitch, and then basically black people hands up, like all of their hands were up, like that was so striking to me. I was like, powerful. Oh my God, it was very powerful. And then the music, I don't know what song, but the song, one of the lines was, "Where do we go from here?"
Yeah, right.
I was like, there's so many messages in this this first scene that I was like,
they wrote it.
Just stop it right there.
I was like, I was done.
The music was very intentional.
Powerful. Very powerful.
They did a great job.
Yeah, they pushed us on the music a lot. Just like going back to New York Undercover, remember when we used to watch those scenes, like every song, they timed it perfectly. Like you had an emotional connection to the song and the scene. You did. Like no matter how many times I say New York Undercover, I always see the intro in my head because it's the music. I'm connected to it.
Yes.
I think
music's universal.
Some of the stuff that was interesting too, the conversation of the district attorney when they were trying to decide to send Preston. And they were worried about the optics when they said only a black man can indict the black man. So if it's a white, right? So constantly playing that
against each other.
Because it's real.
It's real, right? And it's so true. And then even now, like, you know, almost towards the end where you see the brother against the brother.
Yep.
It was like, oh man, the civil rivalry, right? The two brothers that are so competitive, and yet they don't even see that they are being played
against each other,
against one another, right?
Yeah.
It's still a chess game, and they're so deep in it, they have no idea that they're the pawn.
Yeah.
They're not the kings.
They're the pawns.
They're the pawns.
Absolutely. Because even when Preston asked Maceo, the NFL star, I'm assuming he's an NFL player.
Yeah, he is.
He was like, what's your shelf life? Like, already like, you can only do that job for maybe.
But our parents are living in a house
that I bought. Like, it was still that really Lynch kind of.
$50 steak.
Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't have left it either.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Madison, because I know you're like, how many calories is that?
No, I'm a vegan, so I wasn't even thinking about that steak.
Yeah. But
so you had something?
Now I'm going to say, because it makes sense. Speaking of the most powerful, I guess, sentence I've gotten from this episode was from the Pastor James, played by Isha.
She was on.
The world has weaponized our blackness. We're always armed.
Yes.
So it goes back to what you were saying about, you know, your son's experience, which is a lot of our experiences. It's our blackness is weaponized.
Yeah.
And how do
demonized.
we weaponize, demonized. Except for when people are paying to get a tan and lips and butts and all these other things.
That's a whole
I don't even want to preach.
That's a whole other conversation.
That's
cultural misappropriation.
I will tell you, when I was in corporate America, I just got a big promotion, my first big promotion, and I was going to be able to hire an assistant. So now, you know, you start moving up, you get your own assistant, right? And I was going to make an offer. I'd been interviewing, and there was a female of color that I wanted to make the offer to. And so I was getting ready to go on vacation, and I kind of thought I'd make my decision when I got back. Well, when I got back, my boss had gone behind my back and hired a Caucasian assistant.
Oh, wow. For you.
For me, right? And I was like,
without getting your approval.
Yeah, like I don't have no idea what's going on. I get back and I find out. I turned her in HR too. I sure did. And
that's
so I asked her what was she doing, and you know what she told me? I'm black, so it doesn't look right that I would have a black assistant.
Wow.
I was like, I thought it was important how well she did the job. And
Yeah.
if that was the person that I had the confidence in, what does it matter her color, right?
If you're counting us, that's not good.
Right.
Yeah.
So isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Just even because we don't think about that. So we see it played out in a violent situation, right? That's what
Yeah.
we hear about on social media.
Yep.
But in the corporate world and everywhere
thing.
else, it's still the same
thing.
thing.
Yeah.
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 But that's nice that you were actually going to still hire her. She's qualified and she's black, because a lot of times people in your position wouldn't.
Yeah.
Because it's
'Cause they
kind of
don't want
like
the competition.
Oh, another
Yeah.
black person. If you
Yeah,
come
I
and
want to
hire
be
a
the
black
only
person.
one.
Yeah. You wanted
Yeah.
to hire them because they were qualified.
They were qualified.
Yeah.
Can
That's
you do the
good.
job?
Right.
That's what
Yeah.
I needed. Could you do the job? And she
Yeah.
was truly the most qualified candidate. I didn't
She
care.
just happened to be black.
She just happened to be a person
Yeah.
of color. And then for, you know, my boss at the time to go behind my back and do what she did, right?
Yeah.
And so when I was listening to some of the comments and the talk about optics, right? So that's kind of why I told that story, was the comment on only a black man could indict a black man,
Yeah.
right?
And
So
even-
it was okay to go after him to indict him, right?
Because it would make more sense, because you guys are always pitted against each other. But
Right.
even when they were watching the baseball game, and the Latina, I'm not sure what his name is, but he asked him, so what do you think about the guy, when they were watching the baseball game, which is kind of stereotypical, because that's kind of what we all do anyway, supposedly. But he said, yeah, he seems arrogant. So there's already that kind of like, we're arrogant, we're inconsiderate, we're always against each other,
aggressive.
we're aggressive, and so we're demonized.
Attitude.
I was just like, wow, that's so interesting that I feel like every scene has like a purpose and a point, and there's a bigger message in that.
Which is how it's supposed to be done
Which
when
is
it's
ex-
well written.
Yep.
Right.
Period.
Yeah, we got to see who the writers
even
are
down
for the show.
to Gina is the writer credits on the first episode,
Oh,
but
go ahead, Gina. Congrats.
even down to the name of the church, right? We were talking
Yeah.
about that.
Lord, chosen house.
Yeah.
Chosen
Yeah.
house.
Someone came into Chosen.
The chosen
church is
house.
chosen.
Yeah.
So I love the scene where Sinai and the brother are in the car, and the
Maceo.
Maceo,
Yes.
and the music
get
is saved.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there were two different
Say
types of save.
Yeah, they were paralleling both of their nights.
But you
Yeah.
know what? Even in that scene, they did something completely unexpected, because you have this athlete who's used to getting groupies and hoes,
Yeah.
and he was like,
They
"You
wanna get
sexy as hell, but there's a sadness in your eyes."
He had a little depth to him.
He
Yeah.
had depth to him, so
Layers.
I feel like they're playing with kind of the stereotypes and like slamming them in our face, like he might be an athlete, but he could see past. Like, stop
Exactly.
putting labels on people.
Female lead pastor.
Yeah.
That was another
Yeah,
one.
oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's
I love
a
that scene.
whole other conversation, especially when you're talking about the black church. You have a lot of black people who won't go to a church if
Yeah.
the
They're
woman
gonna-
is
Exactly. And it being the South.
the
yeah,
South.
that's
That's
huge
a
in the
whole
South.
other thing.
So what did you guys think about the when the pastor brought out the two mothers?
I loved it.
I did too.
I was
We-
like,
that-
ooh.
yeah,
we
we-
had emotional there.
It
for a
goes
minute.
into play
And it
back
goes
to
back-
what you were
yeah,
saying about
exactly.
race makes you feel a little different. I think
Yeah.
that was needed, and that's how they're backdooring the other son, Joe.
Right.
Yes.
In my opinion,
Yes.
that's how they're gonna backdoor it. But that's what we need to happen. I think
Yep.
the mothers of the movement would have agreed to this scene, because that's what you need to do.
Yep.
Like, we have to stop saying, well,
He's black. He's
yeah,
white.
so
he's
we
this.
cry less, we cry more.
Yeah.
No. This shouldn't be happening in the first place.
Yep.
Let's
Right.
make sure that we all band as a community
Yeah.
and say that this is wrong. And that sounds
Yeah.
Disney, but whatever.
No, that's good Disney, because that was, I think, the scene that I literally was about to cry, because it was just like,
It
it
was
was
good.
so powerful. It was like the beginning, like it was a perfect like little notebook close bookends for the power at the beginning, and then the power at the end, where you see we basically need to get back to humanity.
So is the pastor genuine, or was that optics? Because there
Both.
was a big old camera, that big old camera in the back.
She's smart. She's
Yes,
smart.
she's very
She
smart.
knows how to
Both.
play. Yeah.
She has emotion, so it's done right. But she knows how to play the cards. She's
Right.
a queen in the chess game, and the queen is what's most important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think she's lacking genuineness, for lack of a better word. But I do think she understands that, okay, this situation is getting more attention, so
Right.
let's
Yep.
get something that didn't get as much attention that should,
And piggyback 'em.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
Period.
Then that's
Yeah.
that's how
That's
you
it.
do it. Yeah.
And I think, as like when you look at the business of politics and church. Like a lot of times people say those two things shouldn't meet, but we
they
see
do.
a very strong case where it should mix. Like I feel like a lot of churches should be out on the forefront and doing exactly what she did. Like she challenged Preston at that news conference. She challenged him like, well, what about this? And what about this?
Right.
And we've been seeing this story countless times.
But do you guys realize, not to get into deep politics, but do you
Oh, we
realize
gonna
that?
get deep.
It's too late.
Yep.
Shots fired.
Yep.
But do you guys realize that we as people of the color are the only race that politicians come to our church?
Yeah.
Because church, I was gonna go into what she was saying.
No
Church
other race
is-
does that happen with.
You think that's true?
Church is
Yeah.
everything
No,
in the
yeah.
black community,
Community.
regardless of which country you're going to. Church is everything. That's what got us through slavery.
Yep.
And look, I mean, 50.
Well, collectively back then, there was nowhere else to reach us.
That's
Right.
true.
Right, that
Exactly.
was our community.
But I don't think we're very open and vocal about our spirituality. It's not
Yes.
something that we hush down or try to play nice with. No.
Right.
And I
Right.
think that's the church is always going to be.
The place where people go. Yeah. Because I think too, as people of color, we don't realize our spending power.
We don't.
Our watching
We
power.
are the number one.
We are the number one
for both
consumers
things
of
that you just
everything,
said.
and so I think we don't
we get the
realize
bottom of
how
the
much
barrel.
power we have in that. So I'm so glad.
So I think it's even more than power, right? We don't truly
Exercise it.
understand our value.
Yeah.
Right? So if you don't understand your value, you're
That's
never
true.
going to understand your spending power and who you are collectively as a voice. And so that's our biggest, I think to me, that is our biggest weakness as people of color, is we do not truly understand how valuable we are, and our dollars are tied to those values. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you see a contradiction even in our culture. I think it was shown well with the kid who was a fan of Preston's brother.
Yes,
Mace.
that was a good scene.
That dialogue
Yeah,
there
yeah,
where
yeah.
he's like,
I could get a jersey.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm going to get an autograph or something.
It was a specific conversation they had, and Preston was basically saying, I decided to save the world as opposed to being a football player, as an athlete.
Yes.
Yeah.
That
That was a
dialogue,
pivotal.
yeah.
Because that's what
Yeah.
we're taught, that you could be an athlete or a drug dealer.
Exactly, or
But-
an artist.
An
Or
artist.
an artist,
Yeah.
but God forbid you be the next
be
Barack
smart.
Obama.
You look like
That
a
was
sellout.
it, right?
Yeah.
No value on education. That's why I was saying
Yeah.
we don't understand our value, because when he said, I made this choice to go out here and do this, he was dismissed. His value by his
Yep.
own race was
Yeah.
dismissed.
Yeah.
Because they don't see the
immediately.
money in it.
Right.
And even the
money's
cop,
attached to
they
it.
said, someone was saying that Josh, he's not in the streets no more.
Yeah.
He's sold out. So like
Yes.
even him, because it's a level of corporateness or whatever, it in our culture, some view
Conforming.
it as
But I
conforming.
think
exactly.
the police is a little different in the sense that the police and the black community don't necessarily have the best relationship.
Yeah.
And I
Right.
think that's more or less, that was more of that, I guess, dialogue in my opinion.
Yeah.
More than anything else.
Yeah, that's a really good point, because we see kind of like the relationships with the police, and then we see kind of the community. And I love that they called the house. You got to go to the house and talk to Miss Campbell. So the house, I love that it's a new name for the projects, as we used to call them back in the day. I love that we're kind of rebranding how we see communities who have been dismissed and who have been forgotten, that
Right.
they completely changed. And then you talk about the name of the church, Chosen House, and the houses. Like this has so many like layers that I'm like so impressed, and I was like nervous about the show and kind of what it would do to our community. So hopefully, I hope that it brings us together, so we start to see more of ourselves. And I think that's the important thing too, when you talk about the two women that were coming together in the church. That if I always said, like with Trayvon Martin, like I have a friend and he has 3 kids, 3 boys at the time. They were very little. I was more upset because I was fearful for his 3 little boys. And I'm like, if everybody treated Trayvon Martin like that was their son, the choices that you make and the things that you do would be completely
Absolutely.
different.
Absolutely.
So I feel like we haven't really talked about the scene. So let's get back to
Go
it.
ahead.
Surveillance cameras. And you talk about Sinai going to the, she went to the house because we saw Preston actually trying to go. He was like, oh, I built a connection with this young man, so let me try to bribe him and get a jersey. And we see him getting beat up.
But it was interesting because he didn't even realize he didn't have a connection with the guy, because the guy was really clear. You sold out, like you didn't make the right decision, so there was no connection. So what was it about him that made him think that he had a connection?
I do think he had a connection with him. He told him the details of where the house was. I don't think him getting jumped had anything to do with the kid, because at the end the kid got chased. So. I don't.
You think it's different?
Yeah, I thought that was.
See, I was thinking he set him up.
No, I don't think he did at all.
Because they don't know who this person is coming to this neighborhood.
Yeah,
Certain neighborhoods you can't just go in.
Okay.
You got to be escorted.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. And he was next. The kid stopped at a certain point.
That's a Cabrini Green thing in Chicago, right? You got to be escorted in there.
Yeah. So they initiated you in there.
Okay. Interesting.
So maybe that's what it was.
See, I was thinking he set him up, right?
No, I don't think
the way it kind of played out. Gotcha.
I think he also had to be. You can't. Like you saw that early, like I'm from a neighborhood like that. You can't talk to the cops like openly like that.
Yes.
And so he put himself on the line by even having a conversation with them.
That's
Took it to another layer. He's taking them to where they need to go. You know what I mean? That's snitching in the neighborhood like that. Period.
Okay.
So I think when we saw him getting chased at the end, that was a consequence of his action of helping him out. Because I do think he helped him out.
Yeah, I do too.
That's just my perspective.
I think the police had something to do with that chase.
Absolutely.
I
thought it was the police. Yeah,
I feel like
I definitely think it was the police for sure. Because now we're seeing kind of like the unveiling of the police corruption. Because then we see Deputy Beck on the news I guess he was like, maybe that was a Facebook Live of some sort where he was talking about, I graduated and I'm about to kill these crackers, and which is so funny because I wanted to talk about that because when I saw that in the trailer, I'm like, crackers and the N-word don't really have the same impact.
No.
And I think historically, like that's not a word.
Nope. Not the same.
It's not the same, right?
But I guess they use it because it's, in a sense, a racial slur.
Yes.
So they had to show something to show that he may have had some kind of racial.
Yes. But then I think the thing that was interesting, we see Officer Beck when the chief of police comes over, the sheriff
Platt.
when he comes over and he was like, hey, we're going to put you on administration leave, administrative leave.
Paid.
But which is still paid. But then you see him looking at the Joey Campbell memorial brochure. So it's almost like at the end. So you're like, how is this lining up? What's the tie in the fact that he's the only black police officer on the force, which is interesting how that kind of all plays out.
I have like a guess towards that.
What's your guess?
You do?
Go ahead.
So I think the video was released by the other police officers. I think they did that because there's a code. Police officers have to look out for each other in situations like this, and they had that conversation.
That's not having your six.
Yeah, but I think that they're trying to cleanly get rid of him and throw him under the bus in this situation because there's still a race layer even in the police.
Even in the police
yeah,
force.
but
So
that's my guess.
No,
you
it sounds good, right?
You
like
mentioned the writer's room or something.
Maybe. Hit me up.
I like that.
So that's a guess, yeah.
That's a really good guess.
I like this part where Preston is having the conversation with Sinai, and I will tell you, I love her character. I can tell that she just took that to a whole nother level. I really, really, really like her in
and
this.
You said the interesting thing too is the first time we see her as a mother.
As a mother, yeah. She's always kind of playing, usually single,
the
right?
Ingenue, the girl,
right?
Well, she was a mother she was pregnant in The Best Man, the sequel.
Oh,
right at the end, but
I know. Technical.
Yeah.
I hear you.
But not like she has a walking, human being.
Yeah.
But I really had to think about it.
But I was just going to say where he describes ultimately the woman that he is looking for is being Michelle Obama.
Yeah,
I love that.
Y'all can't get away from Michelle.
I love it.
Right.
I love
it. Yes,
But
strong African American woman. Right. Love it. I love that.
And that was interesting too, because even in that scene, they played with some of the stereotypes. She was like, "No, I know, I'm every man's type."
Yes.
And she was like, "I thought you were gay," and he was like, "No, Michelle Obama's my type."
Yeah.
Right. I was like, "Oh,
You're just not my
But
type.
that publicist was Michelle Obama, but okay.
All right. Yeah.
But
Takes
I
some
wanted
work
to
to get them
say
to
the
show.
part with Sanaz, I guess, well, her father.
Oh, yes.
The father of her daughter.
And then
when his girlfriend or wife, I don't know who she was, but let me tell you
Yes.
something. Oh,
Ooh,
Jesus.
I know, right?
But she came in there because at first I thought maybe she
was a
either-
babysitter.
Yeah,
That's what I thought.
and maybe they have a different relationship where the babysitter's kind of like a mom figure.
because she's gone all the time.
But when she responded, I was like, "Oh no!"
Yeah, I
She's
was
lucky
confused. We were like, we're confused. What
Wait,
happened?
Can I ask y'all a question?
No, we had to
Yeah.
stop that
Ask
right
us.
there, and I had to check her right
So-
then and there.
Right?
Yep.
Hey, so here's my question.
Thank you.
So it's interesting because I have a different emotions towards that scene, but so we've
You got a
seen.
whole bunch of different.
I do.
He's the man. He's the man.
I'm supposed to, right? I gotta even out the
gotta
panel. You know what I mean?
represent,
I know
right?
it's
You're doing
3-on-1. It's 3-on-1.
You're doing
I'm not
great.
scared though. I'm not scared. I will. So it appears that Sanaa may have, like, he's asking for a divorce with her, right?
Is he asking for a divorce or sole custody?
Sole custody.
Sole custody.
Sole custody.
And so she has some things that she needs to work on, quote
her
unquote.
past.
And so the stepmom or girlfriend or whatever it says, she has to wake her up in the morning and stuff like that. It seems like she's the
mother
the
figure.
stable source.
Yeah.
So do you still have a problem with her, the way she's handled it, if she's the one and she's the mom in the house?
The way she came across, yes, that's
Yeah.
respect.
And would you
Yeah.
feel the same way if it was flipped and
I
he would, that
don't.
was Sanaa was a man, a father who was just visiting? Because that's stereotypically in African American culture, that's how it is, right?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
the guy is, he's not the responsible one.
Right.
Yeah, would you
Yeah.
feel the same way?
Oh, that's
It's
Oh,
the
that's a
respect.
big
I got you. I got you. My
Look
drop.
at you.
Drop the mic.
I'm done. I can leave.
And
You can
his.
go.
Wow, yep. That was good.
Yeah, you got that one.
Yeah.
In my opinion, it does not matter. It was a respect thing. That was where I was coming from. I get if you are the one that's doing a lot of the work or all the work. Trust me, I've been there. But it was the respect of it, and that's what I didn't like. And that's why I was like, the little girl had to we had to close the door and we had to check her real quick. Because that was gonna be the first and the last time.
Because what it made me feel was, as a mother, is if you are that comfortable being that disrespectful to me in front of my daughter, there is no telling what you are saying when I'm not in
here.
the room. Yeah, so there's a real issue there that the father is not dealing with,
Addressing.
right? He says, I love my daughter. Well, you couldn't, you kind of have a little bit of a problem yourself if you would allow the mother to be disrespected. Because I'm a big believer, it does not matter what happened to the parents.
Yep.
The child should be first.
First, absolutely.
Period. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. The child should be first, and you have to figure out a way to put your differences aside for the benefit of the kid, so the kid has a healthy environment. So him not willing to address his wife, who has an issue as well, right? There's a bit of jealousy, obviously, going on there. So yeah, he's got an issue too.
Yeah.
And I thought
Yeah.
it was interesting that they were the same nationality.
Right.
And,
Oh, yeah.
you know, because
Yeah.
normally.
But not
yeah.
in the bedroom. 'cause
Right.
Apparently she said.
She said,
Does
what
she
she
know
say?
how you like
When
it?
you in her, does she know you thinking about me?
He ain't say
I was
nothing
like,
bad.
he didn't say
And that says
anything.
everything.
Yeah.
That says everything.
I was like, girl, I need to. I feel
And
like I
then
need to get
the
blessed.
papers show up. You've been served.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
That
kind
was
of a punk move.
payback.
Yeah, that was kind
In
of a
front
punk
of
move.
the other cops, I was like,
Yeah, that's
dang. Now they have something on her.
They definitely have something on her.
Right.
And they already had something on her. So we kind of see kind of that code
layers.
of, the layers of police officers, like the bulletproof, you know, because that was one of the things someone said, you're not really bulletproof because police officers kind of get to hide behind the
Their
justice
badge.
system and their badge. And so we see kind of
bad
like
ones.
The
Like, we
bad,
clarified the bad ones.
That's
Right.
true. I'm
'Cause
glad you
clarified.
clarified.
Because there are
Michelle.
some amazing police officers
Absolutely.
out there.
Absolutely.
And so
Yeah.
and I know some of them.
I do
So
too.
yeah.
So yeah, in scene number 9, I think one thing that stood out, because I know we have to wrap up, he said you judge too quickly. And I think this is kind of like the theme for this entire show, is like you can't necessarily judge a book by its cover ever. In any situation when it comes to stereotypes, because this is playing with so many different stereotypes and how we kind of see each other and how we play against each other and how we compete against each other and how we partner with each other, because we even see the partnership with Sinai and Preston. Ashe and Sinai, and Ashe and Preston.
Preston, there you go.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna get it right.
I knew what you were saying.
All of them were right, technically.
I knew what you were, yeah, I got it.
Ashe and
Sinai
I are the same people.
Yeah, the same people, Preston and so we got
Stefan.
it. Yeah, Stefan. So yeah, I think it's really interesting. So those are kind of my final thoughts. You guys have final thoughts on episode 1, predictions for episode 2.
Oh gosh, I'm kind of scared.
You're scared?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I usually don't watch these kind of programmings because I get so emotionally vested.
Yep.
And it's so, like, for me, real.
Absolutely.
And I have all brothers and younger ones, and I've seen these situations happen with them. So it's like, it's just very emotional for me. So I'm just pacing myself is all I'm gonna say. Yeah.
I love that. Pace yourself.
What about you?
I mean, I gave my prediction already. I put a lot of thought in that one, so.
Yes.
Good job.
You did great.
But no, I really like the theme of the show. I love thick stuff like this. I'd rather do stuff like this than like a cooking show. No shade or anything like that.
Right.
Because there's so many things to talk about, and it's so
Yes.
real and relatable to now.
Yeah.
So I'm just excited to see how they've got my interest. So I'm just excited to see how they go about it.
Yeah.
Definitely got
Agreed.
it.
Agreed.
What about you, Miss Paula Bryant Ellis?
I love the layers. I love the layers of the character. I think in 50 minutes they gave us a lot to chew on, and it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves in only 10 episodes. But I don't know. It's so hard to even imagine where this could go because there's just so much in this first episode. This first episode is
incredible.
Full, and I'm definitely want to see it through. I will tell you, I do like the casting.
Yeah.
I do too.
I like the casting.
It's amazing.
It's diverse too.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's diverse.
Imagine that.
And it
And
could
That's so true.
What happens
It's
when you
life.
just hire people based on talent? Jinkies.
right?
Who would have thought?
I love they brought in Helen Hunt. Hadn't seen her
Yeah.
in a
Helen
while.
Hunt is incredible.
Richard Dreyfuss.
Richard Dreyfuss.
He hasn't come in yet, but
And
so
who was
yeah.
the young lady that played the guy's
PR?
mother?
I don't have her name
You
yet.
say her name. Jill
Jill Hennessy.
Yeah,
Law and Order.
Law and Order.
Yeah, she was an attorney for years on
she's
Law
just
and
knocking
Order.
it out of the park, huh?
Yeah. So I love the casting. I think they
think they
did
did,
an amazing job on a great, diverse, strong group, and that helps, right, with telling the story. So yeah, great.
Yes, so kudos to Gina and Reggie Bythewood.
Yeah.
And whoever did the music, we're going to have to look and see who is a music consultant, because every song, I feel like I'm watching Insecure, like where I'm like, ooh, that's my new jam. 'Cause,
Yeah, you guys, they were jamming. You guys,
Literally.
they're holding back right now. They're holding back.
That's my new jam. Yep. Nope. The clean version, of course.
Yes,
So,
right.
next week, episode number 2, Shots Fired, season 1. I'm excited about what is about to happen. And I feel like television shows can't necessarily bring about a change, but I'm hopeful that this will at least start conversations where people will either see themselves or learn something about themselves, whether it comes to stereotypes and us competing and or working with each other and how it can actually happen. So I hope that is what we see with this show. So I'm so excited to talk about it.
Give you a clap. That was deep.
That was a Miss America.
Okay, so yes, we're going to wrap this up, and hopefully next week we'll actually get an hour to talk about the whole show, because I feel like we were like all over the place, but I think it was good. So you guys tell us what you think. Leave comments. I'm Madison Chase. You could find me on Twitter at Madison Chase Fit, and on Instagram, Madison Chase Fitness, and then on YouTube if you're watching streaming live, One Mad Chase.
All right, everybody, this was great, and definitely want to get your comments. I'm Paula Bryant Ellis, and you can catch me on Instagram and Twitter at P Bryant Ellis.
Hey guys, it's Michelle Madison. Let's continue the conversation on Instagram and Twitter. So I'm on Instagram at Michelle_Madison TV and on Twitter at MICH_Madison TV.
Yes, and also comment on YouTube, the YouTube videos. I'll be there. I'll always like to have conversations and see what you guys think. But also hit me up on Twitter and Instagram as well. Follow me at DeAnjilo. That's DeAnjilo TV for Twitter, and at DeAnjilo for Instagram.
All right.
Thank you guys for watching, listening.
Yep.
And nope.
Yep.
Yep.
Nope.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later!
The views expressed herein are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.